Watari is a lonely nobody who hates his first crush because she dumped him. However, everything changes when he rizzes up the most popular girl in school, making his ex so jealous she'll do anything to get him back. It starts when Watari's childhood friend, Satsuki, who used to play with him every day, suddenly destroys his garden and disappears without an explanation. 6 years pass, and after Watari's parents pass away, he moves to Tokyo and starts living with his little sister. One day in school, Watari's crush, Yukari, asks him to join her for their club meeting, which makes him feel like the luckiest guy on earth. However, despite wanting to join her, he reluctantly turns her down as he has to take care of his sister. As he returns home, he cooks dinner for his sister Suzu, who glazes his wannabe chef skills, and the siblings enjoy a peaceful meal. The next morning, he ties Suzu's hair as he helps her get ready, and later walks her to school. On their way, he senses that someone is following them, but ignores it, despite feeling creeped out. The same person keeps following him throughout the day, and Watari later discovers that it's Satsuki, who shamelessly tells him that she is glad to have reunited with him. However, Watari says he still hasn't forgiven her for what she did to him back then, and tries to leave. Just then, Satsuki suddenly hugs him from behind, but her strength almost breaks Watari's ribs, so he runs away from her at supersonic speed. As soon as he gets home, Suzu asks him to help her with their new garden, so the siblings move outside to check the backyard. Just then, Satsuki shows up with a shovel, prompting Watari to tell her to leave before she ruins things for him once again. However, Satsuki pushes him to the ground and kisses him, which gets so intense that he passes out like a virgin. Just then, Yukari, who came to Watari's house to hand him some meeting notes, sees the two of them kissing on the ground. The next day, as he is apologizing to Yukari for skipping yet another club meeting, Satsuki shows up and grabs her melons, amused to find that Watari likes them big. As Yukari blushes, Watari grabs Satsuki and brings her to the rooftop, where she returns a shovel to him from 6 years ago, making him question why she destroyed his garden back then. Satsuki says she won't explain why she did that to him because he won't get it, but offers to let him do freaky things to her as an apology. Watari gets flustered and questions why she kissed him earlier, but Satsuki gets annoyed and tells him to use his own brain cells before leaving. As Watari heads home, he finds Satsuki carrying Suzu and notices her bleeding knee. Watari immediately assumes that it's Satsuki who hurt her and gets ready to throw hands. However, Suzu hugs him and explains that Satsuki only helped her after she fell down. She also adds that she wants Satsuki to help them with their garden, and Watari is forced to go along with it. The next day, as Watari is busy helping Yukari with buying some stuff for their club, she asks if he and Satsuki are dating. The virgin gets flustered and denies it, while mentally admitting that the one he wants to date is Yukari. Later, as Watari returns home, he finds Satsuki working in his backyard, and she reminds him of their childhood. She asks if he enjoyed his date with the busty girl and admits she wants to go on a date with him someday too, but he gets flustered and tells her to quit messing with him. Just then, she says her shirt is sweaty and starts to take it off, only for Watari to tell her to stop. As the two trip and fall on the ground, his aunt Tamayo, whom he and Suzu currently live with, walks in on them and thrashes Watari for being a freak. She also tells him to leave her house if he is going to do these dirty things, which makes Watari realize he will become a hobo once again. He quickly takes Suzu out for a walk and tells Satsuki to go back home, but she follows him around and asks why he doesn't live with his parents anymore. He explains that after their death, he and Suzu had no place to go, so after getting kicked out by one relative after the other, they ended up at Tamayo's house. He adds that he knew they would eventually be kicked out of there too, but Satsuki says if Tamayo truly wanted them out, she never would have let them build a garden in her house. Later, as Tamayo's cat steals her glasses while she is taking a bath, she runs out of her bathroom in a towel and bumps into Watari, who is there to apologize to her. She immediately runs back in, calling him a cultured guy, while Watari kneels outside the door and asks if he and Suzu can stay with her a bit longer. After they reconcile, Watari and Suzu start working on their garden. The next day, Yukari asks Watari out on a study date, prompting his best friend Tokuai to tease him about it. While Watari believes a hottie like Yukari would never smash him, Tokuai wishes him good luck with losing his V-card. Later that day, it starts raining, so Satsuki offers an umbrella to Watari, who asks why she didn't come to his garden in the morning. She grins and wonders if he missed her, while Yukari overhears their entire conversation. As Watari later returns home, he finds one of Suzu's recent math tests crumpled up in her closet and realizes that she only gets bad grades because she wants him to teach her. As he storms out of his house, he finds Satsuki soaked in the rain and questions why she lied to him about having an extra umbrella. She only blushes and says she forgot, so he wraps his jacket around her and takes her home, only to find that the house she lives in is on life support. While he wonders where her parents are, Satsuki pulls him inside and asks him to stay, saying that he should try to enjoy his own life too, rather than fussing over Suzu all the time. This causes some emotional damage, so he leaves her house, only to later realize that she isn't wrong. When he meets with Suzu later, he asks if he can study with Yukari this weekend, but the brat starts crying and says she wants his undivided attention. That's when the emotional toll on Wataru reaches its peak, and he collapses. The next day, he wakes up with a fever to find Satsuki lying beside him. He quickly gets up and questions why she is here, to which she says she came to warm him up with her body. As he calls her an idiot, the doorbell rings, and Wataru finds that Yukari has come to visit him too. After making sure he isn't hallucinating, he lets her in, and the girl quickly heads to the kitchen to play the role of his housewife. Wataru returns to his room and realizes his chances of getting laid will return to zero if Yukari finds Satsuki in his room. But just then, the door knocks and Yukari steps in with her handmade porridge. Satsuki instantly hides under his covers while Wataru struggles to hold himself above her, so she hugs him and says he can do whatever he wants with her. As this fries his brain cells, Yukari finds a pack of medicine next to his bed, only to learn that Satsuki brought it earlier. It makes her jealous, so she places the porridge pot beside his bed and takes her leave. With her gone, Wataru quickly gets off of Satsuki, only to find her hot and exhausted, and begs her to leave. Later, as he digs into the porridge she made, he realizes that she's even worse than Jamie Oliver, but eats it anyway. Meanwhile, Suzu finds Satsuki in the backyard and asks her about the older man she left with after destroying their garden 6 years ago. Satsuki lies that there was no one else besides her there, and wonders if she told Wataru about it. Suzu shakes her head and recalls that she didn't tell him because she was jealous of how much time her spent on Satsuki, so she wanted him all to herself. The following day, Wataru finds Yukari getting hit on by some older boys, but takes his leave after assuming she knows them. She spots him and asks him to study together with her, so they head to the local library. There, Wataru wonders out loud why she is hanging out with a nobody like him, to which Yukari says that their teacher asked her to look out for him as he is a transfer student, but in reality, she does it because she has a crush on him. She also says she likes talking to him because he is not like other boys, who are more interested in hitting on girls and getting laid. Just then, she recalls how they met once before they became classmates, when Wataru accidentally entered the room where she was changing her clothes. While she assumed he would do freaky things to her now, he only asked her about his sister and left. That night, Wataru thinks about all the ways he can live up to the image of a pure boy who has never had one dirty thought, but the image of Yukari without her plot covers keeps popping in his head. As he tries to get rid of it, he recalls how hot Satsuki looked beneath him, and wonders what Yukari would look like in that position. But just then, Suzu turns on her 6 eyes and tells him to shut up and sleep. The following day, a sleep-deprived Wataru accidentally sprays Satsuki with his garden hose. Later at school, she tells him that she had to remove her plot armor because of him, so Wataru assumes she is wearing nothing underneath her skirt. Just then, Yukari shows up and starts yapping to him about how he should come over to her house soon, but his eyes stay fixated on Satsuki's cake. Just then, a gust of wind blows, so he instinctively hugs Satsuki from behind. Yukari gets jealous and runs away, while Satsuki thanks him for saving her before revealing that she is actually wearing his shorts. Following this ordeal, rumors spread about Wataru dating Satsuki, and Yukari starts avoiding him. A few days later, their class decides to go on a beach trip, which makes Wataru worry about how he will leave Suzu behind. However, it turns out that the Lords of Luck are on his side, as Suzu reveals that her class is hosting a picnic on the same day too. When he tells Suzu they should both enjoy their time with their friends, Suzu cries and asks him not forget her while she is away from him, before asking that he help her buy a swimsuit. The following day, Satsuki offers to accompany Wataru to the mall, which Yukari overhears. While she starts feeling insecure, Tokui suggests that she go with them too, but she says she doesn't want to become a third wheel. He tells her not to believe in rumors until Wataru says something to her himself, so she runs after him in hopes of shopping together. However, when she gets there, Yukari turns into a serial stalker and watches as Satsuki shows off her hot swimsuit to Wataru, who only blushes and tells her to quit blessing his eyes. This inspires her to look like a total snack too, so she tries on a bunch of freaky swimsuits, only to realize that her melons are too big for her to handle. Meanwhile, Watari accidentally walks in on Satsuki changing her clothes and finds her without any plot armor, which pisses her off. As she walks away angrily, he grabs her hand and apologizes, only for her to call him a freak. Yukari sees them holding hands and assumes that the rumors are true, while Watari's heart begins fluttering, and he wonders why. On their way back home, they come across Yukari, who shamelessly asks if Watari is cracking Satsuki after all, but the loser becomes paralyzed and fails to explain anything to her. Just then, Satsuki takes matters into her own hands and kisses Yukari on the cheek, explaining that kissing others is no big deal for her. While Watari starts having seizures from wondering whether she swings both ways, Yukari finally realizes that they aren't dating and happily returns home. On the day of the beach trip, while Yukari gets surrounded by a bunch of fanboys, thanks to her jiggle physics, Satsuki starts beating the losers who hit on her. Seeing this, Watari quickly grabs her and runs away. Later, he tells her to ask for help in such situations instead of playing the hero, but the airhead only shows off her swimsuit and asks if he thinks she looks hot. She also reveals that she has never been to a beach in her life before, which makes Watari realize he doesn't know anything about her yet. Just as he offers to teach her to swim, Tokue comes up and tells him to go buy some groceries with Yukari. Later, as they are heading to the market, Watari realizes that they were set up and asks Yukari if she wants to eat some street food instead. As they settle down to enjoy some skewers, everyone around them keeps wondering what an ugly guy like him is doing with a goddess. Watari panics and grabs her hand as they head back to the beach, while Yukari blushes like an idiot. On their way, he manages to tell her she looks cute in her outfit, and she thanks him for it. Just then, a rich hotshot named Fujioka calls out to Yukari and says he is glad to see she is doing well. However, this meeting traumatizes Yukari for some reason, and she quickly returns to the beach without Watari. Meanwhile, Tokoi asks Satsuki if she likes Watari, to which she says, even though he is the only one for her, she doesn't want to date him. Later, Watari learns from his classmates that Yukari and Fujioka dated 3 years ago, which makes him wonder how he will compete against such a Giga Chad. Meanwhile, Fujioka meets up with Yukari at her hotel and says he wants to start over with her. She replies that even though she appreciates how kind he was to her, she doesn't think of him that way, but he cuts her off and says she can give him an answer later. As he leaves, Satsuki tells Yukari that Watari is overthinking her relationship with Fujioka, so she should clarify everything to him. Just then, Watari passes by with his friends, and the girls overhear one of them say that he is going to make a move on Satsuki, since she seems like she would let him smash. However, Watari defends her and tells the loser that she isn't like that, which makes Satsuki blush. Yukari overhears this too and decides she needs to talk to Fujioka, but before leaving, she tells Satsuki that she has never dated anyone before, including him. Satsuki later clarifies this in front of the other girls, who keep fueling the rumor, and Watari hears this too. Meanwhile, as Yukari meets up with Fujioka at a fancy restaurant, she recalls how he was the one who spread rumors about them dating and even pressured her into going along with them. When she finally managed to muster the courage to stand up for herself, he told her he wouldn't give up on her no matter what. Back in the present, as Fujioka tells her he is still in love with her, Yukari says she has someone else in her heart right now and abruptly leaves. Sometime later, Tokui informs Watari that Yukari is somewhere out there by herself and tells him to go after her. When Watari finally finds her, she tells him to go back, but he refuses, saying that he cannot leave her alone when she sounds so sad. Yukari tries to run away but trips over her broken sandal, after which she starts crying about how lame and spineless she is. She also tells Watari that she never dated Fujioka, but also never cleared the misunderstanding, because she is such a coward. Just as she says she wants to become more headstrong like him, Fujioka shows up with his gang of fangirls and asks Yukari to return to the hotel with him. As she hides behind Watari, he tells Fujioka to stop spreading lies about dating Yukari, but Fujioka insists that they dated. He tells Yukari to tell everyone, but instead of acting like a doormat, she finally says that she has never liked him and would appreciate it if he would just disappear. This strikes a nerve, so Fujioka grabs her arm and tells her to behave, but just then, Satsuki kicks him down from behind and calls him a scumbag. He gets up and berates her for acting like a man, but Satsuki threatens to call the police on him, which finally scares him away. Later at the hotel, Yukari thanks Satsuki for saving her, but she insists that she only did it so Watari wouldn't get into trouble. Hearing this, Yukari reveals that she plans on confessing to him after their trip, to which Satsuki says it's none of her business, as Yukari can do whatever she wants. As she leaves, Watari comes up to her with some convenience store rice balls, telling her that she should eat something. Satsuki asks why he is being so nice to her when he is clearly interested in Yukari, which catches him off guard. Just then, she kisses him and tells him not to mislead her anymore, otherwise, she might destroy something important to him again, as she did 6 years ago. The following day, Watari overthinks what Satsuki said to him and recalls that 6 years ago, the two of them got inspired by a cliched rom-com and decided to run away together. However, when the sun started to go down, they couldn't make their way anymore and had to return home. He wonders what kind of expression she had on her face back then, but gets interrupted by Suzu, who has just returned from her school trip. The next morning, he waits outside Satsuki's house, and once she shows up, asks her why she didn't come to water their plants today. Satsuki wonders why he isn't asking her why she kissed him instead, and asks if he felt anything when she did it. Watari blushes and says he did, but Satsuki reminds him that he hates her, so that's not possible. He finally blurts that he isn't pissed at her for what she did 6 years ago because she destroyed his garden, but because she disappeared and he couldn't see her anymore. This makes her question if he still has feelings for her, but when Watari says no, she tells him never to talk to her again and leaves. At school, Yukari tries to confess to Watari a few times, but gets depressed after she keeps failing to. Meanwhile, Watari notices that Satsuki came to school with Tokoi and finds it weird. Later, when he heads to the boys' changing room, he finds Yukari inside it without her shirt on, and quickly shuts the door behind himself. Yukari assumes he wants to develop plot with her and blurts that she isn't mentally prepared yet. However, he quickly explains she's in the wrong changing room, so she falls to her knees in embarrassment. Watari takes a look at her huge melons too and turns around, only for her to use this chance to get the confession out of her system. However, right before she tells him she likes him, the door swings open and Watari falls on top of her. As soon as she realizes his hand is on her melon, she quickly gets up and runs away. Later that evening, Yukari finally finds him on his way out of the school and confesses that she wants to go out with him, before telling him to think about it and running away once again. When Watari returns home, still reeling from the shock, Suzu reminds him of Satsuki and tells him to go and patch things up with her. However, when he reaches her house, he finds that the door is open and Satsuki isn't home. After noticing how sorry-looking her house is, he finds her calendar and figures that she is at her part-time job right now. As he heads to the said place, he finds her dressed in a hot Chinese outfit, handing out flyers, but she isn't too pleased to see him. After Satsuki is done for the day, she asks Watari why he is here after she told him never to talk to her again. He says that he is worried about her because she is his childhood friend, which finally makes her smile. She asks if she can continue to be around him under the pretense of being his friend, and Watari nods before telling her he can see her cake from where he is standing. Satsuki only raises her skirt even more and tells him he is allowed to do so, which makes him blush. The next morning, Watari tells Yukari that even though her confession has flattered him, he still believes that she could do so much better than a loser like him, and turns her down. However, Yukari insists that he is the one she wants and suggests a trial dating period for a few months. Later that day, while Watari trauma dumps on Tokui at a restaurant about how he is scared of disappointing Yukari, Tokui tells him to just focus on his feelings for her and make it work somehow. He also offers to become his personal love guru, making Watari wonder what kind of shady life he is living to have so much experience with the ladies. Just then, Satsuki shows up and teases him about finally losing his V card with his first girlfriend, which makes him blush. Tokui, on the other hand, tells Satsuki she looks cute in her Chinese maid outfit. Just then, Watari reveals he is here for a job interview, only for Satsuki to lean against him and tell him it's her last day here today, as she found a better paying job. As Watari gets called for his interview, Tokui asks Satsuki if she is doing okay, to which she says childhood friendship is a strong bond that cannot be broken by an outsider. Meanwhile, as Watari walks in for his interview, he finds a cute girl sleeping in the waiting room and feels like he has seen her before. As he takes a closer look at her face, she suddenly wakes up and accuses him of trying to kiss her. Just then, the manager walks in, and Watari tries to explain the situation to him, while the girl takes a look at his resume and realizes she knows him. That night, as Watari returns home, Yukari meets him on his way and invites him out on a date with her, which recharges his social battery. On the day of the date, he brings Suzu along to chaperone them, but Yukari doesn't mind it. She introduces herself to Suzu, who gets blinded by her lethal face card, and finally allows Watari to hang out with her for a day. As the trio begins to look around the zoo, Tokui and Satsuki stalk them from afar under the pretense of making sure that Watari doesn't mess things up. Later, as Watari and Suzu devour the lunchbox that Yukari made with her mother, Tokui notices how Satsuki keeps looking at the happy families around them. Meanwhile, as Watari and Yukari are about to develop some plot, Suzu wakes up from her nap and says she wants to use the toilet. Later, on her way back from the toilet, she catches Tokui and Satsuki in the middle of their stalking spree, and Watari begins to berate them for creeping Yukari out. However, Satsuki offers to treat Suzu to some ice cream, and Tokui tells Watari to enjoy his free time together with his girlfriend. With the third wheel gone, Watari finally holds hands with Yukari, and later that night, swears he will never wash his hand again. Meanwhile, Yukari keeps feeling jealous of his relationship with Satsuki and decides that she needs to make him hers soon. The next day, she heads to the convenience store to buy some protection, as she plans on losing her V-card over the upcoming summer break. The following day at school, as Yukari tries to get in the way of Satsuki talking to Watari, Karma interrupts her advances too, as some guys tell Watari that a cute chick is looking for him. When he looks out of the window, he finds that it's the same girl from his interview, and one of the guys reveals that her name is Makina. That's when Watari realizes she is his junior from his previous school, and a famous track and field star who was in the same club as him. Once he meets up with her, Makina explains that she came to tell him that both of them have been hired at the Chinese restaurant, but the boss couldn't reach Watari, as he doesn't have a cell phone. Just then, she grabs Watari by the arm and says he needs to buy a cell phone before dragging him away. On the other hand, Yukari fumes with jealousy but gaslights herself into trusting Watari. Later, Makina asks Watari if he tried to kiss her because she is a lot hotter now than she used to be, but he explains that he was just trying to take a better look at her. Once they buy a cell phone for him, the midget insists that he make his first call to her, but like a faithful boyfriend, he calls Yukari first, who is moved by the gesture. When an annoyed Makina asks who he just called, Watari simply states that it was his girlfriend. Later that night, she returns to her dorm, only to be scolded by her coach for slacking off, and overhears her classmates trash-talking her. That night, she lies in her room in a spicy set of sleepwear and wonders how an absolute loser like Watari ended up with a girlfriend. Just then, she gets up and decides to break them off so she can turn Watari into her boy toy. The following day at work, Makina keeps trying to use her flat chest and puppy eyes to charm Watari, but he continues to treat her like a background character. This frustrates her, so she focuses all her negative emotions on her work, and as a result, she outperforms every other employee on her first day. Later, as she is taking off her work uniform, Satsuki shows up to grab some of her stuff and tells her that her melons are too flat for Watari's liking. This pisses off Makina, so she runs up to Watari and tells him to break up with his creepy girlfriend. When he realizes she is talking about Satsuki, he recalls the new, high-paying job she mentioned and gets worried, so he follows after her. The tailing leads him to a red light district, and he wonders if Satsuki is using some shady means to make money, given the rundown condition of her house. However, he realizes that he cannot check each shop individually, so he waits until nighttime to visit her at her house. Once inside, he asks Satsuki to rely on him if she is being forced to work a shady job due to money or family problems, to which she replies that she will tell him if he first tells her about his first day at work. Watari complains about how long he had to stand on his feet, which prompts her to grab his foot and offer a personal massage. While he gets embarrassed and tells her he doesn't need it, Satsuki continues to work her magic on his foot and then his leg. As soon as she gets to his thigh, Watari mumbles that he is going out with Yukari right now, to which she says that he previously allowed her to stay close to him. When she brings her face closer to his and almost touches his sausage, Watari's phone rings, and he realizes he was about to lose it. Satsuki pulls back too, and explains that she was just messing around with him, before revealing that she is working as a waitress at a steakhouse. As Watari breathes a sigh of relief, she reassures him that she is neither desperate for money nor estranged from her family, so he doesn't need to worry so much. A few days later, after Makina asks Watari to play her fake boyfriend at the upcoming fireworks festival, he sets her up with Tokui instead. He then asks Yukari to go with him, only to learn that she already made plans with her friends. Following this, he eventually makes plans with Suzu, who is going with a friend of hers, and sets up a time and place to meet with Yukari. On the day of the festival, he learns from Tokue that Makina has run away from him, so Watery tries to look for her. In the end, he finds her near the shrine and asks why she is acting like a brat again. Makina says he didn't warn her about how hot Tokue is, and compares him to a simp like him. She says she could have gone out with him, but Tokue is a total Giga Chad, which is too much for her heart to handle. Just as Watery reels from the insults, a bunch of playboys surround Makina and ask her to entertain them. Watari helps her run away from them, and eventually follows her lead, making Makina rant about how much of a loser he is, as he didn't even stand up for her and just asked her to flee. She further thinks to herself that his infamous girlfriend must be some ugly bumpkin too, since a guy like him could never bag a baddie. Just then, Yukari shows up to meet Watari at their designated spot near the shrine, and Makina is stunned to see her 10 on 10 face card. It makes her realize that she could never compete with Watari's Riz, so she runs away, only to later realize that she is in love with him. Meanwhile, as Yukari takes the train with Watari, she reveals that she left the festival earlier to spend more time with him, which rizzes him up. However, on their way back from the train station, it starts raining heavily, so Watari takes Yukari to his house, as it is the closest spot. He finds Satsuki getting soaked in the rain at his gate and asks why she is here, only to learn that she came to take care of Suzu's plants. As she is about to leave, Watari tells her to stay the night, as it is too dangerous for her to walk home in this weather. Later that night, as both the girls sleep in the spare room right next to Watari's, Yukari wakes up and sneaks into his room. Once in there, she settles down right next to him and tries to kiss him, only for him to wake up and push her against the door, before calling her Satsuki. It catches her by surprise and makes her more desperate, so she tells Watari to go ahead and do it with her. The virgin assumes she is talking about kissing, but Yukari lies down on the floor and suggests that they stop before things get too heated, as neither of them planned this in advance. That's when it finally hits him, so he intertwines their fingers and gets ready to develop plot, only to be reminded of the pure image that he needs to maintain in front of Yukari. He quickly pulls back and tells Yukari that they need to take it slowly, which pisses her off, so she runs away, all while Watari regrets missing the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to crack her. The following morning, Yukari leaves before Watari wakes up, so he offers to drop Satsuki off at her workplace. On their way, he asks if Yukari said anything to her, to which Satsuki says she is proud of him for staying sane despite the mood last night. She also tells him to work on his trashy communication skills if he wants to keep seeing Yukari, which leaves him embarrassed. Later that day, he messages Yukari that he needs to talk to her after her cram school, which makes her fear that he might break up with her, now that he knows she's the kind who would throw herself on him. Meanwhile, Watari's boss hands him 2 double movie tickets, so he asks Makina to come along with him, Suzu, and her friend. In the evening, while Yukari keeps calling Watari to talk, this dead-brained virgin falls asleep on Makina's shoulder at the theater. He later asks Yukari to meet him in person after all, and they set a meeting time for the next day. On the other hand, Yukari feels insecure about his relationship with Satsuki, and feels like she cannot compete against her childhood friend Logo. On the day of their meetup, Watari decides to spend the 2 extra hours between getting off of work and their date by roaming around the streets like a homeless guy, but Makina forces him to go on a shopping spree with her instead. After spending hours as her unpaid servant, Watari takes her to a steakhouse for lunch, where he finds Satsuki working as a waitress. While she teases him about how she will rent him for a day like Makina too, the midget gets insecure about her surfboard, and realizes that Watari really does like them big. Later, she rants to him about how guys always go for girls with bigger melons, but Watari tells her that flat is justice, so she shouldn't feel so insecure. Just then, she sits on his lap and asks him to massage her melons from behind, as she heard that massaging can increase their size. Surprisingly, Watari says he won't hold back, which takes her by surprise, and she falls to the ground. As he helps her up, he apologizes for teasing her and admits that he is trying to keep his degenerate thoughts to himself because he wants to protect his perfect guy image in front of Yukari. He also admits that he is in love with her, which pisses off Makina, so she storms out of the scene, leaving all her shopping bags behind. Just then, Watari finds Yukari standing behind him, who admits that she heard his entire speech. While he gets flustered, she smiles and asks him to tell her he loves her again, after which they reconcile. Later that night, as Makina returns to her dorm after her night run, she finds Watari standing at the gate with all her bags. After he returns them to her and leaves, Makina starts crying, thinking that she cannot get over a guy who is so nice to her. The next day, as Watari heads to school for summer lessons and gushes over his relationship with Yukari, Satsuki sneaks up on him from behind and startles him. He asks what she is doing in her swimsuit, to which she explains that she needs to take swimming lessons to get passing grades in extracurriculars. She then rants about how she can only hold her breath underwater for 20 seconds for now, and wonders if Watari would have taught her how to swim if they were still as young as 6 years ago. That's when he reveals that he and Yukari are seriously going out now, so he cannot pay too much attention to Satsuki anymore. Just then, her swimming coach tells her to get back, so before leaving, she tells Watari that he doesn't need to pay attention to her because her feelings for him will never change. However, if he ever needs attention from her, she will always be there for him. Just then, Yukari comes up to him and notices that he was with Satsuki, which triggers her insecurities again, so she invites him over to her house. Once Watari gets there, Yukari's hot mom, Mio, greets him and thanks him for being such a good friend to her daughter. Watari finds it strange that she is referring to her boyfriend as a friend. Later, as Mio leaves the house to pick up Yukari's little brother from his swimming school, Yukari takes Watari to her room and reveals that she is ready to make plot with him. She shows him a small bag and reveals that she even bought protection, but Watari chickens out as he doesn't want to disappoint Mio and says it is still too early for him. However, the desperate chick doesn't take no for an answer and hugs him, before showing off her assets. Watari's inner degenerate gives in too after he sees her melons, and they lean in for a kiss. Just then, Mio walks in on them, and although they are not in the same plotless condition anymore, she realizes that something is fishy. As Yukari leaves the room to make some tea, Watari accidentally knocks down the pack of protection she bought, and Mio sees this. This makes him panic, so he quickly grabs the box and starts to leave, only for Mio to remind him that her daughter is still too young. On his way back home, Watari passes out from the heat by the roadside and dreams about Satsuki telling him that she knows what went on between him and Yukari. She reminds him of what happened to his parents after they had him at the same age as him, and she tells him that Yukari is being too impatient. Just then, she tells him that instead of smashing Yukari, he should come over to her house and practice it on her, after which she kisses him. The kiss suffocates him, but when he opens his eyes, he finds Satsuki standing next to him and realizes what he saw was just a dream. The girl explains how she found him passed out by the roadside and brought him here, to which Watari says that it is weird how easy it is for him to lean on her, because she pampers him so much. Satsuki grins and wonders if he likes getting pampered by her, after which he starts crying, as he realizes that Mio was right and that he and Yukari are still too young. Later, as he walks to the supermarket with Satsuki, Watari admits that despite everything, he still doesn't want to break up with Yukari. Just as she tells him he is awfully emotionally unstable today, Mio appears and tells Watari to get in her car, as she has something to discuss with him. Satsuki tags along, saying that she cannot leave her precious boy toy with a scary woman like her, which makes Mio laugh. As they stop by at the convenience store later, Watari tries to take the blame on himself, but Mio tells him she knows it's her daughter who is hot and bothered. This makes him wonder if he can continue dating Yukari, to which she tells him that they can continue being friends, but he should break up with her daughter, as they are still too young to keep their desires in check. Despite this, Watari becomes more impatient from that day onward and swears to himself that he will never break up with Yukari. He drops out of summer lessons and plans to become independent right after he graduates, and even invites Yukari out on dates every single day. He assumes that if they meet in public places, they won't develop plot in the heat of the moment, which will keep Mio happy too. On one of these dates, as Yukari sits next to him and teaches him English, Watari starts blushing as she is sticking too close to him. Just then, he notices that her extra-large melons have escaped her button-up shirt and wonders if she is doing this on purpose. However, when he mentions it to Yukari, she gets flustered and quickly takes her leave. Meanwhile, dirty thoughts start polluting Watari's mind again, and he realizes that it is much harder to keep things innocent than he thought. That night, after Yukari takes her nighttime shower, she receives a message from Watari, saying that he cannot see her for a few days as Makina hurt her foot and he has to cover her shifts too. At the same time, while the pinkette is losing her mind from staying locked inside her room, she receives a call from Watari, asking if she needs anything. She takes this chance to ask him to come over and keep her company, which he surprisingly agrees to. As Watari visits her in her dorm room, Makina asks if his heart is thumping from being alone in the room with a hottie like her, to which he tells her she is just a midget who is flat as a board. He also notices how she strategically spread her plot armor for him to see, but he isn't fazed and tells her to quit trying too hard. As he takes her out on a walk later, Makina says that instead of becoming a pro athlete, she is rather interested in becoming a housewife these days. Watari reminds her that she is still too young for that, but she says that people her age are allowed to think about marriage, and wonders if he thinks about marrying his busty girlfriend. Watari says he hasn't thought about it, which makes her question why he is even dating her then. He explains it's because of his deep-rooted inferiority complex, which makes him think that Yukari deserves someone better than him, to which Makina says that he must not love her if he lets groundless doubts like these get in the way of their romance. Just then, she tries to walk away but hurts her foot again, only for Watari to pick her up princess style and bring her back to her room. The next day, he meets with Yukari in the library, where she holds his hands and asks if she can come over to his house tonight so they can have a steamy workout session. When Watari mentions how this would betray her mother, she presses her melons against him and reveals that she isn't talking to her mother these days, so it doesn't matter. Watari apologizes for ruining her relationship with her family and asks that she try to understand where Mio is coming from, but the desperate chick walks away. On her way out, she overhears Satsuki's swimming coach telling her not to switch schools so suddenly, and being the nosy queen that she is, she cannot help but pry about it. Satsuki reveals that she is returning to her parents' house today, which means she will have to change schools too, making Yukari wonder if she told Watari about it. Satsuki says it is none of his business, but after Yukari reminds her she loves him, Satsuki grins and tells her the name and time of her ride, leaving it up to Yukari to inform Watari or not. Meanwhile, Watari meets up with Mio and narrates his parents' sob story to her, explaining that since he saw the consequences of their early marriage firsthand, he will never put himself and Yukari in the same spot. His speech convinces the baddie, and she allows him to date Yukari just as long as it doesn't result in family expansion. After Mio leaves, Yukari calls him and tells him about Satsuki and how she is leaving their city today. He initially shrugs it off by saying that this isn't the first time she has disappeared on him, but as soon as she tells him when her train leaves, he immediately runs to the station. At the same time, Yukari admits that she is trying to test how loyal Watari is to her and whether Satsuki has realized her feelings for him or not. Back at the train station, as soon as Watari finds her, he questions how she can leave him without a word yet again and demands that she get off the train and talk to him first. However, Satsuki just pulls him on board and forces him to travel with her. On their way, he once again tells her to quit leaving him like this over and over again, making her wonder if he is only here because Yukari asked him to. Watari denies this and says he came off his own accord. Later, when they reach her hometown, Satsuki tries to send him back home, but he insists on coming along to meet her parents, so she eventually brings him to her family inn. They enter the inn through the back door, where an employee named Yayoi jump-scares them, as she recognizes Watari as the boy who was Satsuki's first love. While she is already writing Wattpad fanfics about Watari and Satsuki in her head, Watari has to snap her out of her daydreams and reveal that nothing is going on between them. As Satsuki takes her leave to see her parents, Yayoi informs Watari about Satsuki's grandmother, who passed away a year ago. She reveals that her parents wanted her to inherit her inn, but Satsuki refused it and went to find him instead. She continues the lore dump, telling Watari that Satsuki was adopted 6 years ago, which is probably why she wanted nothing to do with the inn. Back at Watari's house, Suzu recalls seeing a mysterious figure approach Satsuki 6 years ago, and she wonders who this man is. The mysterious man turns out to be a blonde Sigma named Naozumi, Satsuki's adoptive brother. That night, Yayoi mixes up a strong herbal drink to recharge the duo, but it ends up being too strong, knocking out both of them instead. The next morning, Watari wakes up all up in Satsuki's business and runs out of the room, afraid of catching the degenerate allegations. Meanwhile, Satsuki is forced into a white dress against her will, and she heads out with Watari to visit a shrine. Despite his best efforts to cheer her up, Satsuki continues behaving like a prisoner on death row, awaiting her execution. During this unofficial date, Watari stumbles upon Yayoi again and ruins her fanfiction dreams by revealing to her that he already has a girlfriend. That's when Satsuki returns from the toilet and reveals to Watari that she is pissing her pants at the thought of meeting her parents, since they will ask her to take care of the inn alongside them. Watari decides to help her out, suggesting that they should pretend to be a couple, which will give Satsuki an excuse to return to Tokyo. She pretends to be upset by this outrageous suggestion, but this is exactly what she wanted this entire time. When the time comes for the grand confrontation, Watari lies about being together with Satsuki, but is surprised to find that her scary-looking parents are extremely happy about it. They reveal that they adopted Satsuki because her mother could not support her due to her financial conditions and had plans to make her the heir to their inn by marrying her to Naozumi. However, Naozumi was totally against this sweet home Alabama situation and ran away from his crazy parents. Later, as Watari and Satsuki are returning home, Naozumi confronts Satsuki about her real feelings, saying that he knows that she is in love with Watari. This is the first time she is forced to address her real feelings, realizing that her stepbrother is correct. Back at Yukari's place, she is growing increasingly jealous and impatient, especially since Watari has not been picking up her calls. As a desperate attempt to get his attention, she takes a few selfies for her boyfriend, making sure her assets are on full display for maximum gooning potential. However, in the middle of all this, her younger brother Sho barges into her room, catching her red-handed, and wonders why she is wearing strings all of a sudden. Meanwhile, Satsuki is busy getting swimming lessons from her coach, but her mind is still preoccupied with her complicated feelings toward Watari. Later that day, Yukari and Watari go out on a date, where he gifts her a lover's charm from the shrine. Yukari is overwhelmed by this romantic gesture, and asks his boss to take a photo of them together. Meanwhile, Makina is stalking the lovebirds from the restaurant, and barely keeps herself from crying out loud. Their date is unfortunately interrupted by Satsuki, who approaches Watari and confesses her undying love all of a sudden, asking him how he really feels about her. Yukari cannot believe this chick's audacity, coming for her man right in front of her, so she pulls Satsuki to the side to have a private chat with her, afraid that Watari would accept her proposal if he got any more time to think about it. She begs her to stop ruining her final chance of getting cracked by Watari, but Satsuki tells her to mind her own business, as this matter is between her and Watari. Later that day, Satsuki hugs Watari from behind while he is depressed over Yukari and invites him to the swimming pool to give her private swimming lessons, since he had made that promise a while back. Although Watari tries his best to stay loyal to Yukari, his degenerate brain takes over when Satsuki reveals her spicy swimsuit. Still, Watari tells her that he cannot reciprocate her feelings because of his relationship, and Satsuki takes this personally, literally attempting to drown herself. Watari does rescue her, but Yukari's brother catches the two splashing around in the pool. He runs home and snitches to Yukari, who has already made up her mind about having a serious talk with her cheating man. When the day of the confrontation finally arrives, Watari can't help but appreciate how good his girlfriend looks, unaware of the storm awaiting him. As the date begins, he tries to act like the perfect boyfriend, but his world shatters when Yukari tells him she cannot date him anymore. The next morning, Watari turns into an emo loser, making it very obvious that he has been dumped by Yukari. He cannot even tolerate hearing her ex-waifu's name, running to the toilet to cry his heart out. Meanwhile, Satsuki catches Yukari being a loner in an empty classroom, and offers her a tissue to wipe away her tears. Yukari cannot believe that she is being consoled by Satsuki of all people right now, and feels terrible about breaking up with Watari, especially since he made sure to firmly refuse Satsuki's proposal. However, she admits to Satsuki that she was feeling extremely insecure in the relationship and feels like ending things was the best course of action. However, later that day, when Tokui texts her, asking about the breakup, she denies it completely, saying that they are still together. Meanwhile, Satsuki is over the moon since her attempts at being a home wrecker have been very successful, and wonders if Watari's answer will change now that he is single once again. A few days later, as Watari is passing through the school grounds, he stumbles upon Yukari and her friends. He is surprised when Yukari addresses him like she usually does, almost as if she did not break up with him just a few days ago. While he overthinks this later, Satsuki ambushes him and shows off her spicy ghost outfit. In order to cheer him up, she even puts her melons on full display and offers to let him crack her if he is that desperate about getting laid. After school, Tokui meets Yukari to confront her about her lies, but she simply denies ever breaking up with Watari. Tokui tells her about the upcoming cultural festival and how there's a legend associated with it. Apparently, if two people kiss at the after-party, they will always end up with each other, regardless of whoever comes in the way. Hearing this makes her hopeful, and Yukari decides to ask out Watari after the festival to see if the legend is legit or not. Meanwhile, Watari overhears people gossiping about Yukari, saying that there's a rumor going around that she has a crush on Tokui. His fragile ego shatters upon hearing this, and he wonders if his bestie Tokui is the better choice for her after all, given that he is such a heartthrob. A few days later, while the school is busy preparing for the festival, Watari cannot focus on his tasks at all, as his thoughts are occupied by the women dominating his life. Feeling overwhelmed, he runs to look for Satsuki, seriously considering agreeing to her offer of sleeping together. However, before he can confess his feelings, Yukari and Tokui enter the building, totally ruining his mood. This makes him fully believe the rumors of Yukari and Tokui being together, which makes it easier for him to move on from his ex. Later, he heads to Satsuki's place, where she shoots her shot once again, showing off her melons in Watari's face to better her chances of getting laid. He gives in too, and the very next moment, the two are in a dark room on top of each other. However, Satsuki cannot tolerate his stinky pits and asks him to take a bath first. In the bath, Watari confesses that he will only sleep with her after they have been together for some time. Satsuki gives him time until the cultural festival to ask her out, which would seal the deal and keep them together forever. A couple of weeks later, the festival is in full swing, and Tokui is busy explaining the legend to Suzu, who is surprised that these dumb adults still believe in these things. Meanwhile, once Yukari is done with her shift, she prepares to ask out Watari once again, daydreaming about getting married and having a family already. Just then, her friends ask her about what is going on with Tokui, and Yukari finally reveals that the one she has feelings for is Watari, who overhears the whole conversation. Later, when Yukari finally meets him outside, she gets ambushed by a herd of crazy fans who want to get a photo with their favorite chick. Watari helps her escape them by hiding in an alleyway and putting on mascot costumes. However, Yukari gets heated up being this up close and personal with him, and gives him a kiss through their masks. Just then, they get caught by the psycho fans that beat up Watari, who passes out like a diva again, but Satsuki soon arrives and repels the crowd with her intimidating aura. She then takes him to the nurse's office while jealous Yukari watches them. Sometime later, Watari wakes up in the nurse's room with Satsuki leaning over him, dressed in a zombie nurse outfit. She gets to business instantly, urging him to ask her out, so they can get the romantic stuff out of the way and get to the steamy part quickly. However, Watari feels conflicted after overhearing Yukari's confession, and refuses to go out with Satsuki, saying that he is confused since he loves both of them equally. He reveals that he plans on turning down Yukari as well, since dating either one of them would be unfair to the other girl. However, Satsuki has had enough of Watari's virtue signaling, so she kisses him on the mouth, hoping that the after-party legend would work its magic and make them a couple, whether he likes it or not. Later that evening, he rejects Yukari's proposal, who runs away heartbroken. Over the next 3 days, she stays at home, acting like the world is ending, even though it is her own insecurity that has brought her to this stage. A few days later, on her walk back home, she tells Tokui that what broke her heart the most was hearing Watari say that he also loves Satsuki, since this was her biggest fear this entire time. That night, when Watari reaches his home, Tamayo informs him that his childhood house will be destroyed soon, so he needs to go there urgently to retrieve a laptop. Watari is reluctant to visit that house, since that is where he had met Satsuki for the first time, but he realizes that he cannot turn down Tamayo. Watari takes the bus and finally reaches his old house, only to find an unknown red-haired baddie leaving the place, holding something in her hand. He searches the house thoroughly, but the laptop is nowhere to be seen. That's when he recalls how his dad used to print out photographs for their family, including the one picture he took of him and Satsuki. Just then, he realizes that the redhead from earlier was carrying a mysterious parcel that resembled a laptop, so he runs after her to see if she is the one who has stolen it. When he finally catches up to her, she offers him a ride to the train station, introducing herself as Rika, the landlady's granddaughter. She offers to take him to her house for a cup of tea, and Watari takes her up on the offer, hoping to uncover the truth about her parcel while he is at it. However, to his absolute disappointment, the alleged laptop-shaped parcel turns out to be a packet of pastries. After learning the entire story from him, Rika reveals that Satsuki visited his house earlier and wanted to look through the laptop for something too. Watari realizes she must have been searching for their childhood photos too, but wonders where the laptop has disappeared to. Just then, in order to cheer him up, Rika invites Watari to an all-girls bar where she works, giving him the harem experience of every guy's dreams. That night, while he is happy being surrounded by juicy melons wherever his eyes land, Rika pulls him out of the crowd to be his therapist for the night, and says she can tell that his love life is in shackles. Watari gives in too and rants about his complicated love life, saying that he cannot possibly choose one girl while hurting the other one. However, Rika bluntly calls him a coward, saying that he clearly likes one girl more than the other one, and that he is just afraid of admitting it. She further recalls Watari's father giving her some relationship advice and shares the wisdom with Watari, making him realize that he received his zero dating skills from his daddy. Rika also remembers that his father used to email Tamayo all the time, which surprises Watari, since he was under the impression that his father had cut all family ties after his marriage. Back in Tokyo, Satsuki finally decides to leave the city for good, since Watari has turned her down. Tokui learns about this and tries to make him date her, but she rejects his advances, asking him to ensure that Watari never tries to get in touch with her ever again. When Watari returns home and finds out about Satsuki's sudden departure, he becomes extremely worried. However, Tokui stays true to his promise and tells him that he has started dating Satsuki, to stop him from reaching out to her. That's when Watari finally realizes how dependent he had become on Satsuki, and now, in her absence, he feels completely empty. 3 months pass, and Watari fills the waifu-less hole in his heart by dating Makina. But one day, he gets a parcel from Rika and discovers that it is a flash drive stick with the last remaining copy of his photo with Satsuki. He finally gathers the courage to call the inn, where Yayoi informs him that Satsuki never returned home. Meanwhile, Satsuki has started living at a secret dorm, away from both Watari and her family, hoping for a fresh start. A few days later, Watari informs Tamayo that he will not be going on the school trip, since he is single and friendless now. Even Tokui has been ghosting him, not responding to any texts, which makes him wonder if it's because of his newfound romance with Satsuki. On Valentine's Day, Yukari appears out of the blue and gifts Watari some chocolates, asking him to become friends again. Tokui, who received chocolates from her too, finally responds to Watari as well, asking to meet him the next morning. As they meet up, Tokui finally spills the tea, telling Watari that he has no clue about Satsuki's whereabouts either. He also convinces Watari to come on the school trip, promising not let him feel like a loner. That's when Watari realizes that the rumors about Tokui and Satsuki dating were a lie, which brings him a little relief. Meanwhile, Yukari is busy trauma dumping on her friend Shimada, telling her that although she is okay with just being friends with Watari, she would prefer to start dating him again. Tokui also suggests that Watari give Yukari a shot, since Satsuki is no longer an option. But Watari, since he cannot act like a jerk. Back at home, Watari runs into his aunt Tamayo, who has transformed into an Instagram baddie overnight. She confesses that she was planning on having a talk with his teachers to ensure he wasn't getting bullied at school, and is relieved to learn that Watari is going on the school trip after all. While packing for the trip, Watari comes across the childhood photo of him and Satsuki, and wishes that he could have given it to her. During their trip, Yukari and Watari sit next to each other, and he realizes that he is acting less like an awkward loser now that he isn't under pressure to act like the perfect boyfriend. As they arrive at Okinawa and are heading to their hotel, Yukari is horrified to find Satsuki moving into the same hotel as them, as she fears that her plan of getting back together with Watari has once again been complicated because of this blonde chick. Later that day, Satsuki confronts Tokui in a bathroom stall, and he confesses that he used some psychotic stalking techniques to figure out which school she was going to. He tries to act like he is not trying to set her up with Watari, but in reality, he is pulling the strings like a mastermind. Throughout their trip, Satsuki keeps running into Watari, but Yukari makes sure to keep him distracted. However, she feels guilty about lying to him and finally comes clean, revealing that Satsuki is staying at the same hotel as them. Upon hearing this, Watari begins running like a maniac, determined to find Satsuki and get some closure. Over the next few days, Watari has the crash out of the century, as he wanders around asking if anyone has seen Satsuki. He goes as far as to sneak inside the girls' rooms at the hotel like a shameless degenerate, and his friends sit him down to knock some sense into his brain. However, when they realize that there is no way to stop him, they decide to help him reach out to Satsuki, just to get it over with. They come up with an elaborate plan to distract the teacher, buying Watari time to sneak inside Satsuki's room and finally spill his heart out. But Watari finds Satsuki knocked out like a drunkard, so he decides to leave her with a note instead, telling her that he has their childhood photo and wants to give it to her. The next morning, some random nerd from Satsuki's school delivers a message from Satsuki to Watari, in which she tells him to send over the photo via the nerd. However, this photo is Watari's last hope of ever getting in touch with her, so he refuses to hand it over. Later, he learns from Tokui that Satsuki's school trip will end the same day, sending him into absolute panic mode. So he comes up with another insane plan to reach her, disguising himself as the nerd from before and joining Satsuki's school on their trip. Meanwhile, the nerd asks Tokui about why is he helping Watari get laid, and Tokui replies that he has no chance of bagging a chick himself, so might as well help a homie out. On the other hand, Watari jump scares Satsuki and drags her along with him, eventually reaching a beautiful sunflower field. Satsuki is impressed by this sweet gesture, since the field looks similar to one from their childhood photo. She explains that the reason why she has cut all contact with him is that she feels guilty about interfering in his life and ruining his happiness. She further reveals that she thought that if she completely avoided him, Watari would be able to find his happily ever after with Yukari. Watari acts like a typical emotionally inept man, and says Yukari sees him as a friend, to which Satsuki questions if he is only here because she rejected him. He denies this, and says he made up his mind 3 months ago, and finally manages to confess that he wants to be with Satsuki. However, Satsuki is playing hard to get, so she teases him by almost kissing him. But she stops at the last second, telling him to continue chasing after her for a bit longer. Just then, she asks him to pose in the field, taking a cute photo, and saves it on her phone, before sharing her phone number with him. A month has passed since the eventful school trip, and Watari and Satsuki have been regularly chatting through their phones. He finally makes a plan to see her in person, and Satsuki gets dressed in a hot outfit to meet him. Meanwhile, poor Yukari is on the verge of ending it all, since her boyfriend has been stolen away from her by the same chick for the second time. At Watari's workplace, his boss informs him that Makina, his co-worker, will be quitting in a week because of some personal issues, so he decides to check up on her, only to get smacked in the face as she sprints out of her apartment. Just then, he runs into her older sister, who is under the impression that Watari and Makina are a couple. Watari confronts Makina about her lies and learns that her sister wants to take her back to their hometown, but as a desperate attempt to stay back in the city, she had lied about being with Watari. However, now that she has been caught, she has no choice but to return with her sister. Even so, she begs Watari to spend the next day with her, so she can make some fond memories before leaving. This puts him in a tough spot because he is supposed to be meeting Satsuki the next day too, so he explains the situation to her. Satsuki pretends to be totally unbothered by this, saying that he should hang out with Makina instead, postponing their hangout to the evening. The next morning, Watari and Makina have an extremely awkward hangout, where she is busy trying to rizz up Watari, while he is trying to maintain his distance as politely as possible. She eventually confesses her undying love for him, only to be met by a cold rejection from Watari. Feeling embarrassed, Makina begins sprinting, forcing Watari to chase after her. The two end up crashing and falling on top of each other, ending their weird date on a happy note. However, Watari realizes he is 40 minutes late to his real date with Satsuki, and rushes to her next. He finds her waiting for him in the cold, and the two decide to go to the rooftop to kiss and officially become a couple. Watari notices Satsuki's heart pounding in her chest, and realizes she is just as nervous as him. When he finally leans in to kiss her, Satsuki's alarm goes off, and they are forced to pull back. On their way back, Satsuki informs him that she is planning on taking over her adoptive parents' inn, and wants to enroll in a different school to study business. When the two finally reach their destination, Watari cannot hold himself back anymore, as he grabs Satsuki by her assets and fully attempts to kiss her. Yet again, Satsuki cringes away from him, saying that the security cameras might be watching. Watari is totally confused by her mixed signals, since all his advances have been totally rejected by this blondie, yet she still continues to show interest in him. A few days later, as his final exams get closer, Watari and his friends meet up to do a study session together, but end up talking about girl problems instead. He arranges to meet Satsuki after his finals are over, and is determined to ace his exams to impress her. After being done with finals, the students are contemplating what they will pursue in the future. Yukari invites Watari on a tour of colleges, along with some other friends, still desperate to spend time with the man who keeps rejecting her. At home, Tamayo advises Watari to get into a college of his liking, allowing him and Suzu to stay with her for a bit longer. She even agrees to pay the college tuition, making Watari do the house chores in exchange for her sugar mommy services. Later that afternoon, he gets a text from Satsuki asking if she can come over to his place for a bit. Watari is thrilled at the idea of finally having his girlfriend grace his house with her presence, offering her tea and lunch when she finally arrives. However, things quickly get heated up when the two find themselves alone, and Satsuki asks Watari to kiss him. Just then, she gets jealous when she notices Yukari's campus tour flyers, but pretends to be unaffected. Instead, She climbs on top of Watari to get him in the mood, but he senses that something is off. He gives her a tight hug instead, saying that he wants to understand why she is such a weirdo first before getting down to business with her. Satsuki informs him that her adoptive brother and Yayoi are getting married and will be taking over the inn, which means that her plans of going to college to study business are useless now. She also confesses that the reason why she avoided his kiss last time was that she was too afraid to admit that Watari genuinely likes her. Once she leaves, Watari wonders if he would have been better off getting with a normal chick rather than this complicated mess. However, he eventually tries to sort things out for her by visiting the inn urgently. Once there, Naozumi informs him that he never intends to care for the inn after his marriage, and that it was just a rumor started by his emotional mother. He also gives him a lore dump about Satsuki's childhood, saying that she had a neglectful mother who was too busy fooling around with men to care about her daughter. Naozumi admits he would regularly drop Satsuki off at Watari's place, but then, once the summer break ended, she knew she would not get to see Watari for a long time. Later, Naozumi drives him back home, and Watari realizes that the reason why Satsuki is being so weird about their relationship is because of her failed connection with her real parents. The only relationship that has worked out in her life is the one with Watari, so she is being extremely careful about it. The next morning, Naozumi meets Satsuki and explains the situation to her, assuring her that her dream of taking over the inn is still very much alive. A week later, the friend group decides to crash at Satsuki's workplace, where Tokui admits to her that he has decided to stop meddling in other people's romantic business. Yukari runs into Satsuki, and she pours out her heart then and there, confessing that she let her own feelings cloud her judgment. She admits that Watari rejected her multiple times, but she kept forcing herself onto him, and eventually realized that he had his eyes set on only Satsuki. However, Satsuki admits that she is afraid that she is not good enough for Watari, which is why she is having trouble making things official with him. A few days later, Watari makes plans to see her again and rushes to finish his work to avoid being late to their date this time. However, the more work he gets done, the more work keeps piling up, causing him to crash out. To his surprise, once he walks out of the building, he finds Satsuki waiting for him, who confesses that she sneaked into the school to meet him. Watari wastes no time, telling her that he loves her and hopes to start a family with her in the future. This turns Satsuki red as a tomato, and the two finally share a kiss, as their slow-burning romance finally pays off. Watari informs her that he has changed his mind regarding his plan to go to college and will be working as a chef straight after school. He admits that because of school and work, he might not be able to see her often, but Satsuki is okay with a long-distance relationship because now she fully trusts him. Meanwhile, Satsuki also informs him that she will be attending college, which would also make it hard for her to see him. However, despite their uncertain futures, the two are happy living in the moment. Over the next few weeks, the lovebirds have a marvelous time living out their domestic life dreams, as Watari is fully in charge of cooking, while Satsuki helps out with the other chores. Watari recalls his aunt Tamayo's advice, who strictly told him not to get reckless with Satsuki and start expanding his tribe at such a young age, which leaves him embarrassed. At work, Watari is treated like a dog and made to do basic food prep. For this reason, he is afraid he won't get enough training to become a chef after school, since becoming independent and supporting Satsuki is his biggest priority. Meanwhile, Satsuki prepares to welcome her future husband from work by mopping the floors, running the bath, and getting drenched herself in the process. That night, when Watari gets home, things get heated up in the bedroom, and he realizes that Tamayo's advice may or may not apply to him anymore. The next morning at school, Satsuki feels quite sick, and Abe, the nerd, overhears her admitting that she did not get her monthly bloodbath this time. He is fully convinced that she is about to spawn Watari's look-alike, and immediately reports this breaking news to Tokui, who promises to investigate further. When the boys meet up later that day, they inform Watari about Satsuki's illness, as well as the potential expansion of their family. Watari gets worried, thinking that Satsuki must be feeling uncomfortable, so he rushes back home to her. Meanwhile, Satsuki is burning up with a fever, but wakes up to find Watari beside her. She uses this opportunity to play around, taking off her clothes and asking Watari to wipe down her sweaty, feverish body. While he wipes her back, Watari mentions that it was Tokui who told him she wasn't feeling well, and wonders why a heartthrob like him had never dated anyone. Satsuki reveals that she knows the reason because she accidentally saw a message on his phone once. She says she believes he has a girl in his heart, and even though they have broken up, he hasn't moved on from her. A few days later, the squad meets up at the beach, where Watari reassures everyone that he and Satsuki are definitely not adding another member to their family. Satsuki, on the other hand, proudly announces that they will stick to regular makeout sessions until they graduate, making Abe and Tokui regret asking the question. Later, Tokui reveals to Watari that he is actually looking for his ex, Aki, who broke up with him after a year-long relationship after he learned that she was still hooking up with her previous partner. He says he wants to get closure from the first love of his life and find out if she is doing well now, in order to move on from her. He also reminisces about his relationship from 3 years ago, thinking about Aki's bubbly personality and her thick thighs. Determined to take one last look at them, Tokui searches for her for the entire day, but doesn't find her. However, as he is about to head back, he finally runs into Aki walking along the beach with her daughter. She is happy to see him after 3 years, and informs him that she broke up with her toxic boyfriend and got married to a different man. She thanks him for being a wonderful partner, even though their relationship had lasted for only 1 year. Seeing her happy and thriving gives Tokui the closure he needs, and he finally feels ready to move on. Meanwhile, Yukari has been slowly rising to fame as she lands a lead role in a television series. One day, Watari finds Shimada waiting for him at the end of his shift, begging him to help cheer up Yukari, who has been feeling low. The two visit her home, where Watari learns that Yukari will have a kissing scene in the show, and she doesn't want it to be her first kiss. It turns out that this is all an elaborate plan by Yukari to bring Watari to her home, where she can beg him to kiss her so her first kiss can be somewhat memorable. Watari cannot believe this dense chick is still after him, so he politely rejects her advances once again. The next morning, Watari and Satsuki attend her stepbrother's wedding, where she has trouble congratulating the newlyweds. Watari advises her to write down her thoughts on paper to help calm her down and deliver all the points efficiently. Later that day, Naozumi thanks Watari and Satsuki for blessing his family, because the only reason why he met Yayo was because of Satsuki's efforts to repair her broken family. That night, Satsuki shares her fears with Yayoi, saying that she is afraid of marrying Watari because she cannot imagine being a mother or making a family. Watari overhears this conversation, and later that night, he reassures Satsuki that her fears are valid and he is in no rush to start a family. He also suggests she stay at the inn for a few more days to get closer to her parents, which she agrees with. Meanwhile, he heads back to Tamayo's place and puts in more effort to learn more about her, spending time with his aunt and Suzu. He recalls that during his stay at the inn, Naozumi told him that Satsuki feels like an alien because she has no love whatsoever for her own birth mother, which is probably why she is afraid of having a family herself. The following night, when he goes to pick up Satsuki at the train station, the two get totally drenched in the pouring rain. Watari apologizes to Satsuki for talking about building a family at such an early point in their relationship, and reveals that his own mother had a terrible relationship with her family, which is why she ran away from home after marriage. Satsuki feels a bit reassured knowing she is not weird for not liking her own mother, and Watari promises that he will be happy as long as his future family includes her. He admits that he felt more nervous about having this conversation than he had been while asking her out, and Satsuki gives him a tight hug, hearing his heart pounding in his chest. A few days later, Makina visits Watari at his workplace, and he is pleased to learn that she decided to stay back and become a great athlete at her school. Later that day, Shimada and Yukari drop by to make a reservation for the wrap-up party of their television show, and Watari asks her about the kissing scene that she had been so nervous about. Shimada informs him that all that worrying had been an act, since Yukari was actually supposed to kiss her pet dog. Later, Yukari apologizes for her desperate attempt at trying to get a kiss from him, and even invites Satsuki to the party. Meanwhile, an excited Suzu rushes to Tokui's flower shop, shaking with nervousness. Just then, she blurts out that she has a crush on him, and asks him to remain her friend until she turns 18. Tokui can hear the police sirens ringing from a mile away, so he quietly gives her a flower pot to take home in exchange. Suzu takes it straight back home to plant in her garden, while Sho watches from afar. He later confesses to his friend that he has a crush on Suzu and wants to ask her out, but having Tokui as his competition has completely drained his spirit. Back at Watari's workplace, his co-worker inquires why he chose this line of work, and Watari explains how he has to provide for his future wife. The guy totally roasts him in response, saying that with his current skills and mood swings, he cannot even support himself. This motivates Watari to work on his cooking, and he becomes determined to officially acquire a chef's license. Meanwhile, Tamayo wakes up to be jump-scared by Satsuki, who has come over for lunch at their place. On the other hand, Watari rushes back from home, afraid that Satsuki will put on her freak and scare Tamayo away. However, when he enters the house, he finds everyone having a peaceful dinner, without any crash-outs on the horizon. Later, as Tamayo is about to leave for work, Watari gets emo and thanks her for her hospitality, and especially for caring for Suzu in his absence. But apparently, being emotionally unavailable runs in the family, so Tamayo bluntly tells him that she will be there for them whenever they need her. Meanwhile, Suzu shows off her garden to Satsuki, where tall sunflowers are blooming, reminding Satsuki of the garden she had destroyed when she was young. She apologizes to Suzu, and she happily accepts it, even though she likely has no memory of the incident. A few days later, the squad heads over to the beach to make some new memories. As Suzu is busy cooking herself under the sun, since she has heard rumors about Tokui dating a tanned woman in the past, Watari asks Satsuki to close her eyes, and she wonders if he has finally decided to put a ring on her finger. However, she opens her eyes to find a watch on her wrist instead, and tells him she actually prefers it over the ring. Just then, Watari proposes to marry her sometime in the future, and Satsuki agrees. On the train ride back home, Satsuki and Suzu sit on either side of Watari, peacefully sleeping next to him. Meanwhile, Satsuki dreams about herself and Watari back in the sunflower fields, but this time around, she is finally able to reach him. This brings us to the end of Watari's whirlwind romances. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more awesome recaps.